conference. This morning we are going to be touching on a number of topics of national importance, especially as we head into the Independence Weekend. Now, we have noticed over the past couple of years the development of a very troubling trend in our country. A trend which we believe has been engendered by the concept of the so-called Project Grenada, which ultimately has as its objective the establishment of a one-party state in our country. We believe that the period of independence is as good a time as any to reflect on that trend and to call on all sectors of Grenadian society to take heed of what is going on in a very subtle but dangerous way, something that is threatening to undermine the very foundations of our democracy and the freedoms that we currently enjoy. We see, for example, the continued, unabated character assassination of the political leader and other members of the leadership of the National Democratic Congress by paid hands, by hired hands, whose sole objective is to create a climate of mistrust on the part of the population for the leadership of the NDC. We see the government embarking on what I would call a starve and bribe policy towards people who are perceived to be opponents of the regime. People are denied the normal rights and privileges of citizenship, such as the right to work, the right to equal opportunities and protection under the law, based solely on partisan considerations. This is something that we are calling on the government to stop, and we are also enlisting the assistance of independent and fair-minded citizens and groups in our country to call for a halt to that practice. We see also the blatant abuse of the public purse to further the ends of the new national party. We see, for example, the allocation of $15 million under the Prime Minister's ministry solely for the purpose of currying favor for dishing out contracts to party hacks, supporters and followers of the NNP. Case in point is the recent opening of that little stretch of road in the Willis, New Hampshire area, where, by all accounts, free drinks were flowing like water. And we need to ask the question, were those drinks sponsored by the new National Party, by independent friends, so-called friends of the NNP, or were they sponsored by state resources? It is unconscionable in a time like this, when things are so hard and people are being called upon to make sacrifices for public monies, if that is the case, to be literally poured down the drain in furtherance of the political objectives of the ruling party. The Prime Minister of our country continues to take us for a ride. We remember that some months ago, when concerns kept being raised about the fact that 2 MPs, previously 3, continue to receive ministerial salaries in spite of their not holding any portfolios, that Prime Minister Mitchell promised that he would look into it. Apparently, he's still looking. We call on Dr. Mitchell to come clean with the people of our country and to make a decision on that once and for all. There's a continued abuse by Senator Sheldon Scott, who spends 2 hours of every workday on taxpayers' money doing political work on behalf of his party. And while he continues to be paid by the taxpayers of our country, we are not being served. We call on Dr. Mitchell to cease and desist from that practice. We see very prevalent too manipulation or attempts to manipulate, intimidate, and threaten different sectors of the media. This is done using all kinds of subterfuge and underhanded measures. We see the reporting of inaccurate stories, we see the suppression of news, we see the twisting of facts, and we believe that there is a hidden hand somewhere at play. Again, we call on all those who have an interest in a free, democratic, and independent Grenada to stand up and let your voices be heard, because history will be very harsh on those who aid and abet or remain silent in the face of these abuses. Grenada is right now under what we call government by ambush, where citizens only learn about certain things after the fact. All of the promised consultations by the Prime Minister upon his taking office after the recent elections, nothing has come of that. So we just hear, for example, that this is being sold or that has been given away, and the answers that we get from government ministers create more confusion than clarity. Again, we call for the government to run the country in an open, transparent manner, to take away the cloud of suspicion that hangs over every government action and decision, because that can only damage the image of our country internally as well as abroad. The National Democratic Congress is concerned also about recent trends in public order and the rise of petty criminal activities, some of the activities also not so petty. And we are calling on the Minister of National Security to ensure that proper measures are taken to safeguard and to secure our nationals as well as visitors to our country. We know that things will happen despite the best efforts of whoever, but at the same time, we have to look at conditions that prevail at the prison. We must consider, for example, are we releasing into society in a premature way people who will continue to repeat? These are things that the government needs to consider. And this is something that as a responsible party, the National Democratic Congress has pledged to do when we get into office, to undertake meaningful prison reform, to ensure that there are proper rehabilitation programs in place for people who fall foul of the law. We also need to look at the question of the use of incarceration for relatively minor offenses, and the people who fall into that category of being incarcerated are disproportionately young, male, and poor. This is something that the NDC will take a serious look at with a view to bringing forward meaningful prison reform, penal reform, and a general overhaul of law and order in our country. Law and order is very important for the economy. Our country's economy is based to a large extent on tourism. And if the negative news about Grenada continues to be disseminated outside, it can negatively affect the way that sector performs. That is why we need to be so very, very careful about law and order and the way in which we treat it. The National Democratic Congress, in contrast to what is prevailing right now, we pledge to the nation that whenever we get into office, we will be guided by the principles of merit. We believe that people should be rewarded based on competence and ability, that people should not be promoted or discriminated against based on perceived political affiliation as currently prevails under the so-called Project Grenada. So we believe in merit, we believe in fair play, and we believe in non-victimization. Every Grenadian has a right to a bit of space in our country. Finally, we are going to embark, well not are going to embark, we are currently working on revising and fine-tuning our plans or programs and policies that will move Grenada from dependence and poverty to a state of prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Political Leader. This morning I am here to address a couple of issues of environmental concerns for us as a people. We as a human race need to ensure that we will leave this earth, we live it, if not in a similar, but a better position. And the current efforts by the government of Grenada and the Common Park issue does not seem to adhere to that at all. With a blatant disregard for what has been proven research over time in our tourism master plan, our national development plan, and total disregard for many issues of product development in Grenada leaves a lot to be desired. And here I want to address the issue of Common Park, particularly. Sisters and brothers, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Grenada. The government of Grenada, in total disregard for what has been tested and proven research, has decided to remove the Common Park from its current location. And let me say, they will want to tell us otherwise, but that decision has a very big weight. With total disregard for what has been a wastewater management challenge that we know exists on the Granans Bay and the Granans Beach. The dying coral reefs in the same area. The freshwater supply challenges that entire area face. With no regard for any of these above mentioned items, the government of Grenada has decided to, one, to move Common Park in order to continue to do a tourism development in that area. Sisters and brothers, development is important for all of us. And tourism development is very important for Grenada and for the Caribbean in particular. However, all development must and should always be regarded as solid environmental assessments. Certainly, to disregard any of the environmental issues that have been raised, including a freshwater pond catchment area that should have been in Common Park, that has been disregarded. And now we are taking an opportunity to add further development on the beach, on the same Granans Beach, leave a lot to be desired by the current administration. Sisters and brothers, citizens of Grenada, our population requires employment. We require job opportunities for young people, for farmers, for people in the world. Certainly, any act that will enable further development of our tourism product we encourage, but not at the expense of our people, not at the expense of our environment, not at the expense of our future, of our very island as a tourism destination. And the current construct clearly appears to be that where there is total disregard for those fundamental and very important issues. In keeping with our national development plan, there has been a call for diversification of our tourism product and moving away from the concentration along a particular strip in the south or southeastern parts of the country. With no regard for other areas, we continue to concentrate development in the south or southeastern part of the country. And therefore, it is wrong, it is fundamentally flawed to continue this type of ad hoc development without regard for our further long-term development. Young people of this country, your future is at stake. You need to come out and stand up. Because it's you that will have to pay for this. Because what we keep doing is kicking the ball further down the road. All of us have a responsibility today to protect the future of our young people. And therefore I call upon you, the media, and the general public to take a stand for Grenada's future and Grenada's safety. I want to address another issue, not for my personal safety, but I want to bring it to the nation attention that in a recent action, only on the weekend, what I perceive to be an attack on my personal safety, an attempt to happen. The police are investigating at the moment, and therefore I do not want to make any fundamental statements that will prejudice any investigation of the police. I have no fear of personal harm coming to me. Absolutely no fear. And I will tell anybody that will know that is not the issue. But the issue for me is a deteriorating set of circumstances and the physical challenge that people could face. And if you are involved politically, you need to recognize that that is a factor of life. So it is not for me to, I want to make any statements of prejudice the investigation of the police at this time. But I just wanted to be aware that there are certain circumstances that is operating in our country and physical harm can be brought to people because of where you sit and what you do. And therefore I wanted to bring it to the public attention in this matter. As I said, the police are investigating the matter and I do not want to prejudice any investigation at this time. And further information will be available to the public interest. Thank you.
Good morning. I hope everyone know by now that my name is Vincent Roberts and I am the recently elected chairman of the National Democratic Congress. Today, as we approach the 42nd anniversary of our independence, I want to say to you and to the people of Grenada, with full confidence and absolute certainty, that the National Democratic Congress is strong, united, and ready to take Grenada from poverty to prosperity. Today, we are seeing people who had given up on politics, people who had given up on the political process, who were frustrated and refused to even be registered for the elections of 2013. Others who were registered and refused to vote. These people are now coming forward to support the National Democratic Congress and to assist in many ways. We are seeing young people and older people, women and workers now stepping forward. Unfortunately, many are doing so behind the scenes, conscious of the possibility of victimization, intimidation, and harassment, which they can fall victim of if they do so publicly. We wish to assure these people and all the people of Grenada that this long night will surely come to an end. And one day, the people of Grenada will stand proudly and celebrate their independence, ever conscious of God, being mindful of their heritage, and proud to be called Grenadian. For those of us who do not know, and are included in this grouping, our Honorable Prime Minister, who I heard on numerous occasions recently, two of which, one in St. Andrew, where he said, "Go to hell," and the other addressing the independence celebration in Caribou, where he speaks of the unity of our independence and how sad the founder and father, Sir Eric, would be. I wish to inform him that our country was born in controversy. February 1974, the flag was raised under cover of darkness. The whole nation shut down. That was not the unity. In 75, the opposition didn't participate in any celebration. Neither in 76. You may recall that election was called on the 7th of November, 1976, when the People's Alliance led by Maurice Bishop contested the general election. And at the end of the day, the GULP was declared winner and the People's Alliance called foul. And in February 1977, there was no big celebration. Again, the opposition didn't participate. And shortly after, we saw the People's Revolution of 1979. And you may recall that between 79 and 83, independence wasn't any big celebration. It was March 13th that the focus was on. So we know that independence has been marked by controversy throughout the history of our nation. I do not remember the year or the date. People are calling and saying on the radio and telling me, you know, there was one year when the NNP moved with the troops to celebrate independence in one of the rural areas. Unfortunately, we do not keep our records well. We have short memories, and these things come to pass, and a new day is dawn, and no one remembers. But there's a danger in forgetting our history. We must remember that the Grenadian people, while they claim that our memory is short, at the same time, we are deep and strong patriots moving from Fedon in 1780s, 1795, you may recall what they once called the Federals' Rebellion, which we call the Federals' Revolution. The people of Grenada have long passed that stage. We passed through Lord Brownlow, we passed through the revolution and the invasion. And as a resilient people, we have stood the test of time, and we are still standing strong, ready to face other challenges. And those of you who were here at our last press conference will recall me saying, we are not calling for a boycott. And I emphatically repeated, we are not calling for a boycott. However, yesterday in our parliament, under the cover of parliamentary privilege, I heard Minister Alexandra Otway lamenting her sadness that we are calling for a boycott. And this honorable lady says that she is a woman who speaks the truth. Well, I commend her on speaking on Camahan Park for the first time. At least the first time that I have heard. And it is about time that she stepped forward. Unfortunately, the first statement that I heard is a lie. And I challenged them on it, if they would only go and check on the media. But you know, it has become necessary to speak up when lies are told. Too often, we try to be politically correct and sweep it under the carpet and say nothing. As I said at the beginning, the National Democratic Congress is strong, united, and ready. And this takes me, with due respect to the Grenada Broadcasting Network. And I thank the GBN for what they have been bringing or not bringing. Because when we feel that all the odds are against us, we feel most strongly motivated to prove them wrong. And when the chips appear to be down, we look up and we move forward, confident that the people of Grenada will stand on the side of truth. And I speak specifically of a story which was brought last night. Headline, NDC loses 4 more to the NNP, and with the caption, switching sides. My question to GBN is, how unbiased and objective was that particular story? It is quite easy in today's world, where even children are empowered as much as adults, where students are as equally empowered as teachers, where you go to the doctor and you don't just tell the doctor, my head is hurting me, but you tell the doctor what you think is wrong because you went to WebMD. When Google is now not just the name of a site, but you Google as a verb. GBN could have Googled Siddiqui Sylvester, and they would have seen that appearing on the 8th of October in the New Today, a story headlined, Siddiqui Sylvester plans to take legal action. And the story says, and that's at a press conference, which more than likely, GBN was present at. And the story says, one expelled member of the ruling NDC is taking legal action against his former colleagues for his expulsion from the 25-year-old party during last Sunday's convention held at Telescope in St. Andrew. He appeared in that press conference with his attorney, our now Attorney General, Mr. Cajetan Hood, and a photograph of the two of them together appears in that story. And Hood was hired to institute legal proceedings against executive members of the party for Sylvester's expulsion. Now, the other people who appear in the story, they have been aligned with the NNP for as long a time. But the focus seemed to have been on Mr. Sylvester. And Hood said in that press conference that a number of clarifications need to be sought on the issue of the expulsion of his client, since Sylvester has not yet received any official notice from the group, and as such cannot determine at this stage whether the motion is legal or illegal. Additionally, in the Jamaica Observer, in the build-up to the 2013 general election, a story says, Siddiqui Sylvester at a press conference introducing 3 candidates for the NUF, whatever it means, I can't remember. He said, we want to see members of NUF in the parliament come February. We want to ensure the membership of NUF is represented in the parliament. Let us work towards that objective, unquote. NUF chairman Siddiqui Sylvester said. Mr. Sylvester was the chairman of NUF. So if he leaves any party, speak to NUF. We were not given the courtesy of a call to comment, but at least give NUF that courtesy. And I ask, is this objective journalism? When this is happening in a country, one has to ask, where further can we go? The media are supposed to be the fourth arm of government. Is this what Grenada is turning to? Sisters and brothers, we must stop and take a check. I am not bashing the GBN. I am pointing straight to a factual report. A few days ago, we published a response to the, what's the post name? Wickham opinion. Mr. Wickham says clearly that it is his opinion. It is carried as a poll with all sorts of comments and the NDC are not given the courtesy of a call for a comment. But this only motivates us more and makes us feel stronger, because we know that, like they say, water finds its own level. Our party has certain core values, and we know that those whose values are not aligned with the party have left. They have left to find their natural habitat. And the party is now building as a phoenix rising from the ashes. And we ask, what's all the fuss about? Didn't NDC go through the same, NNP go through the same thing? Didn't Dr. Mitchell challenge Howard Blaze and take the party, leaving Mr. Blaze to form TNP, the National Party, with Mr. Ben Jones and others? Didn't Tillman Thomas, George Brizan, Alexis and others leave the NNP and form the NDC? You see, sisters and brothers, members of the media, democracy is an ancient thing. And when you're speaking about Grenada and the reintroduction of democracy post-revolution, we are young, we are babes. And social science tell you that groups go through storming and forming before they can really perform. And in social science, a political entity of 25 or 30 years is considered young. So even if we are still storming, thank God, our action didn't result in a prime minister dying, if you could say, before his time, heartbroken, betrayed, stabbed in the back, et tu brute. His closest ally, his general secretary, I think it was at the time, taking office from it, stealing the party, one they say. We must be mindful of our history if we are to avoid this thing repeating. And I call on the media to become more rabidly independent. Stand up to those who are trying to pull your strings. I am in sympathy with the workers of GBN, because when the puppet master pulls the string, there isn't much you can do. There isn't much you can do. You know? And one day, we will return to a system where the National Democratic Congress will once again be in office. It won't be long from now. Whenever they call the election, we are confident that we will win. I don't want to explain it to you here, but remember that when they boast about 15-0, it is actually 9,871 votes separating both parties. And we call for proportional representation because 40% of the electorate voted for the National Democratic Congress. 40%. So when I speak as chairman of the party, I speak of a party who at the last election represented 20,000 Grenadians, who said we wanted this party even when we were at our weakest, even when our general secretary moved with a portion of the party throughout the country, 15 constituencies. We are not so surprised at the result. When Grenadians registered and didn't vote because they were uncertain as to what was happening. At our weakest, we got 40% of the people. Now, we are almost at our strongest and getting stronger. We are stronger now than then. And those who feel threatened by it and who want to frighten the Grenadian people by threats and what else, we say no. And this is why we will be at Camahan Park on Independence Day, February the 7th. On Sunday coming, we shall be at the Camahan Park. Whether Minister Otway, Minister Steele, Minister Garway, Senator Steele, or Prime Minister Mitchell likes it, they can huff and puff, as the children say, is your face. Be going to Cameron Park. And we are calling on the Grenadian people to stand for true independence, show your patriotism, and look at the statement made by Tao. They reminded us that even our colonial masters didn't do that. Try to take our park from us. So we invite everybody to join us. We wish you a happy independence. And remembering the words of our anthem, ever conscious of God, being proud of our heritage, may we with faith and courage aspire, build, advance, and we'll do so as one people, and most of us will be at the top. Thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists. And we now invite your questions from media. Now is your time to ask the questions.
As it relates to the common part, you said that you have knowledge that the decision was already made to move the park. Can you review the location that you have?
To move the park.
Let's pass on the next week.
Thank you very much. To remove the park, we are acknowledging that is the case. As to where they will replace it is another matter. That is something that they are. I can't reveal any source for that at this time, but I'm showing you that the decision to remove the park.
Okay, my next question has to do with the attack. I know you say you don't want to say anything that will happen with the investigation, but can you provide some information as relates to...
An incident happened what appears to be over the night, Saturday night into Sunday morning, when my vehicle was put at trips, nails were placed in the tires on that day at a particular location in the rural parishes of Mandy. And what I perceived around all four tires of my vehicle, what I perceived to be a clear attempt, if I drove out in the night from where the vehicle was parked, it would obviously have ruined all the tires and put my life at risk or anybody who was in my life.
Just one question I have with regards to this Andor. You made a statement saying that we need to consider the way we release some of our prisoners, but we don't want to release them in a premature way that will make them become repeat offenders. And you mentioned that NDC will have a better prison reform program. What are some of these aspects of this better prison reform program? What are you seeing now that you think you need to improve on if the NDC does come into office?
At this particular point, we are not prepared to release specifics, but as a general principle, we believe that what currently obtains does not work. Most of the people currently in prison are repeat offenders. So it's quite obvious that a number of things are not happening. One, the prisoners go in there and they come out unreformed and apparently unrepentant. They are released into the society very often long before the term that they were supposed to serve has expired, often for violent crimes such as rape and other sexual assaults. And they come back out into the society with no support system, with no halfway house, for example, with no form of guidance and counseling, with no program to ensure that they are meaningfully employed or otherwise engaged. Therefore, we release them back more hardened than they went in, and society is put at greater risk. So this is something that we are putting a lot of effort and energy into.
Okay, but I asked that in light of the prison the officials at the prison, Commissioner Ramfus and others, they had a press conference recently, and they are saying that they have a pretty okay reform program in place. They had a success rate of over 80 or 90% last year, and it's just maybe about 30 or 40 persons of who would have been through that program and were released when the time was right, that actually came back into the prison. So that's why I'm asking that question. And their success rate was like out of 600, 80% of it is 600.
Okay, recidivism should never be a measure for the success or the failure of a program. Now, when you look at our assizes, you will notice that most of the cases are sexual offenses. Every year is the same thing they say. Sexual offenses full of the list. Obviously, when convicted, these people go to prison. When they come out, and we see that happening over and over, our women and girls are put at risk. Because a sexual offender is not the normal character flaw. Research will tell you that it is a psychosocial behavioral problem. And these people need to be treated in a certain way. This is why in mature societies, now you have a sex register, sexual offenders register. They are monitored. Because you do not just release them into the open and hope that, you know, they went to church and they took part, they learned a skill and so on, and that is enough. We are saying that proper psychological assessments must be made. You must have a sex offenders register. You must look at the root cause, not only at the prison and the rate of recidivism, and claim that it is successful. Why are more and more men in particular appearing at their assizes for being charged with sexual offenses? Is it a societal problem? How do we attack that problem? Do we need to review our training for children in schools? Do our boys have a problem in handling relationships? So it goes way beyond the prison and what is happening there. And the National Democratic Congress, we are working with experts in the field, and as I said in my release, unfortunately some of these people don't want to come forward because they may be involved in certain processes in our society and don't want to be victimized. But we are developing programs and policies which will benefit the people of Grenada. Not this whooping and hoping to hit and miss kind of thing that we're going through.
Okay, but the prison would argue that their reform program includes everybody in society, basically every sector, because you have the religious aspect, you have the counselors, the psychosocial workers and all of this. So I'm trying to find out what difference would an NDC party put in place that would deal with the situation.
Fisherman never says fish rock. I don't expect the prison to say otherwise. First. Secondly, they are working in the prison environment, and we are saying that it needs to be beyond the environment. We need to look at our pre-primary students. We need to review the curriculum in social development. Why are our young men growing up and feel that they must be violent against the women? And when you like somebody, you must take and not wait to be offered or asked nicely. You know? We are saying that it is the problem is beyond the prison. We are not knocking the prison. We are saying the entire society needs to be looked at and stop the children from growing up to become rapists and doing sexual assault and going before the court before they even reach the prison to experience the reform process.
How do you see the juvenile center helping in the whole reform process? Because as of the 1st of February, the legislation came into effect, and they will be opening the building sometime later on this month. So how do you see that rehab center?
Well, we hope that it will be a great difference in how the youth of our nation will be treated. Unfortunately, for too long, we've had our minors being incarcerated contrary to the United Nations information, guidelines, and becoming hardened criminals. If the performance of this government is anything to go by, I think it will fail. But I hope for the best. We hope for the best.
One question, Mr. Roberts. You're encouraging everyone to join you at the Kamala platform Independence Day.
Yeah.
What will be the atmosphere?
Pardon me?
What will be the atmosphere? What will the event will be taking place?
Come along and see. It will be fantastic. You will see quite a lot of people of all ages, young and old. You will see students from the schools. You will see residents from the south. Everybody will be down there. Come along and enjoy. We'll be bringing food. People will be sharing the food. There will be a few comments made, presentations, one may say. Come along, there will be music, and a fun-filled day showing patriotism, true patriotism and love for our country.
Any transportation provided?
No. The National Democratic Congress is not providing transportation. We are confident that the people are sufficiently motivated to get there. I'm sure buses and so will make themselves available. Yeah? But we're not paying for transport. We will see what genuine people's passion is like for their country.
Will the petition continue?
The petition continues as we speak.
Okay.
And you can find it, I think, I understand, I haven't seen it myself. I understand that when you go to some gas stations, you're being offered the petition to sign. I know that it is throughout the country. But come down to Cameron Park, petitions will be there.
What time are you hoping to start?
I'll be there from midnight. I'll be there from midnight, and I'm sure others will be there with me.
Yes.
I have one follow-up question on Cameron Park district. Like it was said already that the decision has already been made to move the park. How confident are you that with all that is being done in the name of Grenada, that decision could possibly be reversed? How confident are we?
Unless the intention is to mix the blood of the people with the soil in that construction. I saw the President General of Taos lying in front of a truck, caribouis, if you may recall. Cameron Park is of higher value. And unless the intention is to give us a Tiananmen Square and to ride over us with tractors and machinery, we shall not be moved. We stand firm that Cameron Park shall not be taken from the people. No committee, no government, no party, no man, none whatsoever shall take the Cameron Park from the people of Grenada. This one is a no.